Hello and welcome to Ray Russell, composer, guitarist, actor, photomicrographer, balloonist, and quantity surveyor. Nice to see you nice.
Well, thanks, Richard. It's really nice to be in my own home talking to you. I wish I missed the airports.
You've played in so many different styles with so many different people, from the craziness and fun of Mike Gibbs to playing with McCartney and playing
Mm.
searing a rock with Gary Moore and all of these different things. I'd like to know how you, as a guitarist, prepare for each one of those projects. What process you go through?
Let's start with Gary. Let's start with Gary. I mean, you know, I did happen to know Gary anyway from because he's a Brighton lad. Well, he's not really a Brighton lad. He's a Liverpool. He's a Irish lad, but he lived in Brighton quite a while. So I got to know him, and I actually asked him to do that gig, which he did because he felt that he really needed to go and play somewhere and just have a jam
Hmm.
and not worry about. But of course, he had to do Parisian Walkways because, um, as he said, that when he did a gig for Putin in Russia, they demanded that they give him the running order, and they gave him the running order, and it said Parisian Walkways, something else, Parisian Walkways. He played it 5 times, and I mean, that's it. So he got very fed up with that. But he did make the remark that they paid him nearly £1 million to get over. So
Nice.
that's where the Russian tax goes.
Yeah, nice.
Um, yeah, I know, but no, I mean, Gary, he's a great guy, and I love his playing, and we just did a couple of things that were easy to play. In the kind of fusion book of standards,
Hmm.
and just went on there. And I mean, he's more rocky harmonically. He doesn't play so much modal stuff, but I noticed that he was playing a lot of stuff that he never usually plays.
Right.
And I mean, it was just great. You find yourself. The thing is, I think about always about this. You get influenced by each other. It's always cognitive. It's always creativity is always of the band.
Right.
It's never going to be, where I say, well, Gary usually plays, out front, and they play around that. Of course, they're inspired and they play great, but this is just, you know, come down and someone counts it in, and no one knows really what's going to happen.
Right. Right.
So that
But
was a
when I
great, spontaneous kind of event, really.
Yeah. But the thing is that you can go from that to uh, playing in a very kind of composed situation where you're hired to play with an orchestra, or the really unusual excesses of Michael Gibbs, for instance, fitting into that area where it's very composed and yet Mike Gibbs
Mm,
gives you a lot of freedom, and the music is not necessarily easy because I know, having played in his band when I was at Berkeley, that some of
right.
it's rather demanding. So, I mean, whenever you take on any of these gigs, what I'm kind of trying to force you to say with a whip on your bottom is what do you do probably the 2 weeks before the gig, before the project starts? What do you do to prepare for it as a guitar player?
Oh. Well, with Mike, I mean, I knew some of his stuff. I listened to a bit of his stuff because he didn't really have a lot out, before that Decca album. In the UK, people didn't really know him. I mean, more jazz players knew him. That came up, and it obviously widened his audience. Um, so I just listened to his earlier stuff, and that was it really. That was my woodshedding. I mean, I do believe that you do have to woodshed, um, but there are times when you're not going to ever be able to do that, and you run on the collective inspiration. You have to, like when we were playing Third Day. What was Third Day on? I got an acoustic.
Oh, good.
I mean, it's like that's like going to turn into a country and western ballad, isn't it?
No, no.
Except that the first notes are flat and fifth or something, and we were playing this with with Mo Foster because he just to play it, to gig it, and even now, and you listen to the harmonics, and it's very very tasteful. When it comes to playing a solo, he kind of wants you to do your thing, but you have to base it, obviously on what he's written, and
Right.
then you have to get in and out of those changes,
Yes.
and
Indeed.
that's not easy.
Yeah.
But so you're thinking ahead of you've got to think ahead of the changes all the time,
Yes.
and then when you get the music in front of you, which I hadn't seen any of that.
Oh boy.
It's a reading gig, and what's interesting is, like with Mike, and a lot of people they presuppose that even guitar players can read music, and the generation 10 years before me could all read dance band music, as you
Right.
know for your dad.
Indeed.
They're great readers,
Right.
and I'm sure he taught you to read, and
Well, actually, that he didn't, and he wasn't a great reader. He could read because he had played a bit of violin when he was a kid,
all right.
but he relied on his ear a lot. I mean, he could basically read, but
Well,
he didn't
yeah,
read at all. But yes, it is a reading gig, and I know that when I was with Mike Gibbs and he put a tune in front of you, it was like, what the hell is this? And then you'd realize the genius of the composition, and you'd realize where you
yeah.
fit into it.
Well, it's a natural thing, but I tell you, actually, going back to my first ever gig, where I quit school early. Sounds like one of those early rock songs,
Yeah,
which was probably in about the right time. And joined the John Barry Seven, which I conned my way into that by woodshedding on a little. I don't know if they haven't had them in America, but they were called Danset record players. You probably had the equivalent, one
I
valve
had
and.
one. I was in England. I had
Oh,
one.
you're in England, right?
I
You
had
have
one.
one of those, of
I came
course,
to
right?
England in 1962.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, of course. That's 62. Wow. And you know, I never really thought about is the record player playing in tune or not.
Oh
You
boy.
know, that only gave me the cold sweats after I joined the band. About 6 months later, someone said as an offer, "Lucky that record player was playing in tune." I thought, my God, that could have been really bad news. Anyway, I mean, I pretended. The only thing I knew about that gig was I wanted to, you know, Bruce Springsteen my way out of the job, my day job,
Right.
and and I got to an audition, and what I did was my parents were great. They bought me a couple of discs, LP of John Barry, hit and miss, the Vic Flick playing the James Bond theme,
Right. Yeah.
and they only really just started. That was about the third film then, and he started the band to publicize him and his writing, and obviously as a spin-off. And so I get to this doomy place in North London. It's like a front of a cinema, and they just set the music stand up. There's no electricity, so we have to kind of climb over the ticket desk to plug me in,
Nice.
and then they and they put up this thing, and the first one is James Bond theme, and they put it up, and it says the James Bond theme. Well, I can read that, because I learned to read at school if nothing else. And
Right.
then I played it, and he said, "Wow, that's amazing, that's great." And then the sax player phoned John up and said, "John, this guy's good. He's great. He's going to be really great with the band. He knows all the tunes." And John said, "Great." So anyway, that was great, and I went back to my mum and dad who were petrified. I said, "Listen, I'm going pro. I'm going on the road." In about 3 days.
Right.
Luckily enough, they were cool. I mean, very cool about it. And I'm sure she was having kittens, my mum. But anyway, anyway, about 6 months later, they decided they're going to get all the new stuff in, or some new tunes, and they came up with a lot of new tunes. And one I couldn't quite get; it was quite hard. And the guy said, "How did you learn all those tunes?" I said, "Listen, man, I've got to own up." I said, "You can fire me if you like, but I kind of learned them." He said, "Well, anyone who can learn them can learn to read." And then I took an old acoustic guitar in the van, those days,
Right.
and he took me. This is Dave Richmond, the bass player,
Right.
and Dave taught me how to read music,
That's fantastic.
and
And
so I
so
learned it.
did you get into studio work from those days, or was it later?
No, that was really so. I I left John because they wanted to kind of it was kind of dissolving it. But what was nice is we kind of carried on our relationship, and I did his films. I did about 10, I think, until then the composers changed. Apart from the original Monty Norman thing, which he wrote some of, but I mean, his scores were I don't know, he just depicted those times. Then they were great to play. But then other people came in. But I did a lot of the stuff. But what happened after that was all the guys disappeared into different things, and I got phoned up for a session at Lansdowne by I think I can't remember, it was Ron Edgeworth, the pianist, who's now left us, I'm afraid. But said, you want to do this session? And I said, well, yeah, I'd love to. The thing is, never refuse anything but Woodshed.
Quite right.
Went down. It was pretty easy, but there were three guitar players. It was a time when sometimes two guitar players would play together. Because they weren't really overdubbing. I mean, I think it was 4-track. There was John McLaughlin was the one guitar player, and I'm Jimmy Page. Sorry, yeah, Jimmy Page was. And Jimmy was there, and John McLaughlin and me. Well, how about that then? But I didn't really know, and John said to me halfway through the session, he said, "Look, I'm going to go to the States and start playing with Miles Davis. Do you want the job with Georgie Fame?"
Nice.
So I said, "Yeah."
You said, yeah, yeah.
I said, "Yeah, yeah." I said, "We say, yeah." Actually, that was like that was the hit, at that time. And I think he thought, "Oh, I don't want to play that," because I mean, George's aren't, in the original sense of R&B. He's sitting on Parchment Farm, and
Indeed.
we all got to play that. So, um, and then Jimmy said, "Yeah," he said, "I'm going to quit playing sessions and start a band."
You
Guess
came in
what?
at the right time then.
Yeah, I thought, "Oh, that's two gone.
Yeah.
That's it." Now, and we did this session, and they liked it, and I got a couple of others. I joined Georgie, and that was great R&B, and the guys in that were fantastic because they were like jazz players,
Right.
and this was one of my first encounters with, I'll say, real jazz players. That's what they did. you know they grabbed hold of me and corrupted me into going to Ronnie Scott's,
Nice.
which was the old place at the time, which was down by where it is now, the Chinese district. So Chinese district was where the old place was.
Hmm.
And so, and then I just started playing down there and staying out all night, and being getting corrupted by music, which is
Yes,
great.
indeed. Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, so it kind of sped up, and I mean, I'm just going through that, but I mean, after Georgie, I knew, you just get to know people, and they say, "Hey, do you want to come down and do this?" Because they like the way you play, and you just walk in. And I did a couple of kind of real entrance sessions, which, if you like, with like more famous people. And once I'd done that and started playing with, more famous people were doing a lot of sessions, then I was confirmed.
Sure. Sure.
But the baptism took place, and more fixers would phone me, or
Yes.
music contractors, as we
Yes.
say. But so that, and
And and
really,
and this was about 60 what?
yeah, right. Well,
67, 66.
67, 68, yeah, and then really the big thing, it all started. I did a session with Gary in 69 at Air, and I was doing an overdub in one studio and a jingle, and then Elton John was in the other studio, and Kate Bush was in mixing. It was that kind of thing.
You're just a couple of years older than me, but I remember those
Yeah,
days. And one of the great things about those days was that word of mouth was everything. I mean, I started in England in '69 playing professionally. Then I
Yeah.
went away to Berkeley, and when I came back, it was so quick to get into the scene because of that word of mouth that there was, and I'm sure that must have been a great
That's what it
help to
was.
you because if they, I mean, of course,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been any good if you walked in and you were crap, but it just so happened you were Ray Russell, and they said, "Oh, this guy's quite good. I'm going to use him for this," and I'm going to, that's
Well, it's funny enough. I mean, yeah, because there was a shortage. It's just funny, a shortage of musicians. I was reading a book the other day. I'm just gonna quickly look at it in a second, tell you what it was, but it was just about recording equipment really. And the lady said, I'll get the book out, and she said it's really weird because she went to that Thelonious Monk session, and you know that story about, I suppose you must know this, the story about he plays a tune and he says, right guys, let's go and have a listen back, and the engineer says, okay, I've got the sound now, let's go.
oh
That one.
yeah.
And he got the big needle about it. But you know, that was the technology. And then she remarked that the earlier people were kind of, you know, from dance bands more.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like somebody said to me, I won't mention the guy because he's a great player and he's listener, but and he mentioned it in the best way, but he said, this is just an example. He said, oh, have you brought any gimmicks with you? You know, and I thought he thought I bought a funny hat and a scarf or a gun that went bang or something, you know, and you know, what, you know, and he said, well, like, you know, your pedals, you know.
Yeah,
And I said, well, yeah. And he looked down and I had his pedal board, you know, I kind of bought stuff and made it up
sure,
because I was emotionally into it, you know,
sure.
which is the thing that we were emotionally into the time
Yes,
and could play, you know, could play for the song and not, you know, the earlier guys were great. You know, and they played like the early, you know, the early kind of themes like this, you know, in on telly here, like the Sweeney and, you know, well,
right.
like Vic, you know, like Vic did.
Yes,
But the later scene, he wasn't that interested in it,
right,
to be honest. And
right.
he, you know, he went off and, I mean, you know, it's like he lives near Vegas, and you know, we talk. He's a great guy, but they didn't really emotionally want to do that, you know.
No,
So obviously other people came in, like anything, you know, and who actually like the songs in a way. Although, you know, the old thing adage about turd polishing. Well, you know, there were a few, and they had to be polished rawly to get
indeed.
out there.
Well, that's part of the job. That's what you get paid for, isn't it?
That's part of the gig, and that's what you do. I mean, you know, I think the big discussion was always, and probably always has been, but you know, the guys who were the, if you like, the guys before, they come from the dance band era more, and so what they played were more notes that were written, and then we got into the point where you have a singer songwriter, where it all had to happen because they had to have a band, and there was no real, you know, democratization of the studio, home studio. I mean, I hadn't, you know, had anyone's blessing. The technology wasn't kind of there, made for home studios. I mean, I'm sure you have, you know, and I have one. We probably had some of the first recording gear.
Hmm.
I mean, I vowed to have a home studio after I did. I can probably say it now, 30 years later, but
Right,
after doing a session with Bergerac,
right.
and the guy putting one drum over the mics, and I said to him, "What were you doing before?" And he said, "Oh, I was doing racing yesterday. That was great."
Nice.
And because of the you know, the terrible kind of scene at the BBC, which was, you know, like you have to do this one day and this the next. It was never a music engineer, and you know that old faders back to front thing in the BBC in
Exactly.
case somebody's sound it and it will blow the compressor, the output compressor. If anyone knows that, if any young guys are listening, the faders in the BBC used to go like that and get
Yeah,
quieter, and like that and get louder.
exactly.
And in fact, an old desk from the BBC, a friend of mine bought. I actually helped him convert the faders the right way around, and which isn't as easy as it sounds.
Well, a BBC engineer explained it to me. He said, "Well, it's totally logical. If you want to hear it more, you want to bring the sound closer to you." So to them, that made sense. But of course, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah. Well,
And
that was,
I
when
found that very much when I was working at the BBC, especially in the early days, but right through, was that the BBC engineers, they're very good at what they were used to, but the
oh yeah,
minute you veered just slightly away, using different sounds, they were slightly flummoxed. But you mentioned Bergerac before, and that leads
yeah.
me very conveniently into your incredible career writing film and TV themes. Tell me how you first got into that.
Well, that's not far from where I first got into it. My mentor in that was George Fenton, the composer, because George, was a very generous guy, lovely guy, obviously great composer, and his success meant that he couldn't really write everything, and so we started. There was a cartoon series called The Great Mahuzi, which was running on BBC, or he was going to run on BBC, but he couldn't do it. And he said, "Well, I tell you what, I'll I'll write some of it with Ray, and then you can have both our names." In other words, they wanted his name, but it's a way of me, And I said, "Yeah, fine. I'm not going to make any. It's not a problem. I'll do it. And so, and he said, "Well, there you are then." And manuscript and this is it's just this is really weird because you have to explain to people that are younger that then it didn't go on the computer. It was on a VHS or a U-matic, and you had to have a thing called a click book. Do you remember the click book, which
I
was
do.
a logarithmic book of if you wrote it? I mean, give you an easy one. As you know, if you wrote at 120 BPM, then it worked out evenly per cut. But sometimes the film and the way it just didn't look right, and you were writing at 70.5 or
Yes.
and you had to work this thing out with the manuscript paper and put little ticks where the music changed, because you couldn't really count four and press something because it would never be right. So it was score paper, and I basically wrote at George's for a while, as and had to show him everything. And then I got I got kind of let off to go and write at home. But what we used to do is write until about 4 or 5 in the morning,
Yeah.
warm up the curry we bought at the
Nice.
takeaway at 11, and
Nice.
eat that, and then kind of go home. I can't understand why we left it that late. But before then, I used to have to go to. He lived in West London, and for us, going to West London, then we went to near Heathrow to
Right.
take the parts where this lovely guy copyist called Andre Gersh was waiting.
Right.
If that rings a bell. He's gone now, but he was waiting at the War Museum. The War statue, which is on one of the corners on the A4 going towards the airport. We had to
Right.
stop there 4 or 5 in the morning, or
Yeah.
I had to,
Yeah.
and give him the scores
Right.
for the next day,
Right.
and go and do the session, which
And
was
he
all
did that.
live. So
Yeah. I had
Jesus.
a copyist named Derek Andrews, and I did the same thing to him for years and years and years. Show up at all hours of the day and night with scores and
Yeah,
say, we're on in the morning, let's go. They're a very
it's
brave
funny.
lot, those
They're
copyists.
very brave, and I tell you what, he got. Oh, poor old Andrew, he got very bad sight. I mean, he's got the glasses were very thick, and he would look like bottle tops, and there he was in his like khaki raincoat, waiting at the war station. And I went there once to meet him, and he wasn't there, and we were really worried. And about 7 in the morning, his first phone call wasn't to a lawyer; it was to us, because he was in jail. He said they arrested me for loitering.
Oh no. That's
He
incredible.
explained. He
Yeah.
tried to explain, and when he said, I tried to explain about what I was doing, it sounded so ridiculous. He thought, well, I would arrest me if I was saying that. So he got out. We got him out and explained, and
Thank
he,
goodness.
he went back and just did the copy and appeared as usual. Nothing stands in our way, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the
No, that's
most important
fantastic.
thing.
So you actually from doing those that early work with George, you then continued. Did you develop relationships with people at for instance the BBC and ITV and different companies? They called you
Yeah,
up and said, "Hey, we heard what you did on that. Would you like to come do something for us?"
yeah. I mean, some people say you're as good as your last, score or whatever, but it's not quite like that. That's a quite hard thing to say. I think in a way you are. People just like the way you write. They might not like the film, but you know, they come out whistling the music, which is
Right.
really what you don't really want to come out whistling the lighting or in a way, the sound design, because they're not going to whistle. But although sound design is great, it just there's so many stories you can tell, and you have to be good at storytelling, and that is the main thing I found with all that stuff, and I do now, with things, um, and the music's like the third ear, and it kind of gives it the dimension that you know it can't have. It just that's what music does. It's a as someone said, it lights a kind of candle under the it warms up the whole picture. It needs that kind of music, and I mean that was traditionally people using strings, and you know because that's how it had to sound, and that lush sound is still here, but of course it all depends on budget. Now, some people think you can do it at home, don't really learn the difference, and I do it at home, but you do need, I find things that have real instruments on in the end will kind of have more shelf life.
Well, I completely agree with you. And one of the things that I don't know if you've been aware of, but it certainly has made me slightly feel unpleasant, is the number of uh, computer programs there are now, software that musicians can buy today, which not only have libraries of sounds, which
Mm,
is fair enough. It's like an
mm,
instrument, you need something that goes crash, you need something that goes boom. But you can actually now buy software that will give you melodies, chord progressions, uh, all the instruments playing them perfectly,
mm,
recorded beautifully, and you can mix and match all these 8-bar sections of thoroughly composed music, and you are now a composer.
mm,
And there's this great
mm.
quote in one of my interviews on the station where Lyle May says, "Well, apparently now you don't have to go to school at all. You don't have to study your instrument. You don't have to study music. You just be able to press a few buttons and you're a composer." I mean, I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel kind of bad about that.
I feel, do you know what I feel really bad about is that you go to school and you can learn to read and write, and that's a great buzz, to write to somebody, but now you can, you know do it on a computer. Obviously it's great for some people that need a computer, right? Like dyslexic people, and people that have a problem. But I think the thing about music is, what the wonderful thing is, if you're writing it and you come up with something that you like and you've been creative. The 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 problem is when people talk about your kind of workload and things. They're talking about work. I'm talking about creating music. I'm talking about writing music, composing. I'm not talking about people's kind of workload. In, oh, I've got, this is going to take me an hour doing this, pressing this and doing that. Like a machine shop. I'm talking about, yeah, okay, I use a computer, yeah, and I love the technology, and it's fantastic, but it's democratized, so it means it's great. Everyone can do it, but not everyone can really do it. But the problem there is some things get through that are just not happening, that are just polished, and you know what I mean. And it's like it's not very good. So and also they've never really had to have the experience, of coming up with something that fits, hitting the nail on the head, is a kind of, without overplaying this thing, it is a kind of spiritual experience. It's a thing that, emotionally makes you grow, and spiritually makes you grow. So, it's very important that your input goes into it, because your name is on the end of it. And I'd hate to see what I hate is like someone say, "Oh yeah, well that sample from that was from
Exactly.
DX8, or that thing was from." Do you remember that sample? It's like that. Some of those ghost programs, and they've got their finger on middle C on this loop that goes whoa. And somebody sampled it, and they've claimed the credits for the composing all the way through.
Exactly. Exactly.
Good luck, to the house they bought with it. And I don't, that's fine. I'm not, it's not bad. It's just that it's bad for them. I'm not moaning about the money they make or don't make, probably. But what I'm saying is that they're never gonna feel the feeling that we can, if you actually, like, it's like, having a great night playing, or you know working all night and coming up with this thing you've probably struggled for 4 hours to get absolutely right with the dialogue, and it's great. Why should it be easy?
Mm.
If it's easy, everyone can do it. Oh, sorry, everyone's doing it. Well, why are they doing it? Oh, because it's become easy for that. But that, it doesn't make you any better. It
No.
might make you rich. It might make, I sound like Jesus. I'm sorry, but it's not that. It's just,
No.
it might make you rich, and it might make you do this and that, but it doesn't make you as a person
Well,
better.
on that subject, then I would love you to say, I'd love you to tell me what the absolute most fun project you've ever worked on is.
I'll tell you what. I'll give it to you in a day. I think I tell you why I'll do this, because there's so many. You say, you play with McCartney. Well, that was great. He said, just play over these chords, and I did, and I just kind of listened to what he was on about emotionally and tried to fit in with that. So, you play for the song. You don't play for yourself. You don't put what you want to put on it. You play for the song. You morph into that song. Okay, so that's great. But when sessions were at their height in London, and you could park on yellow lines and say you were delivering and get away with murder without, having to park the car, and nice things like that. And I did a day, and I call it a day in the life, which I will remember forever, in sessions that depicted the whole thing for me of how great it all was. And that was the jingles had to start at 8 till 9, because people were working at 10 o'clock.
Right.
So at 8 o'clock, I turn up, I do a session, and it's a punky thing, and I see Johnny Rotten appearing in there, who's actually kind of written it,
Right.
and he said, "It's got to be like this, jingy jing," and he's a really nice guy. It's fantastic. And he plays this thing, so we all play. He says, "Hey, you guys, that's really great. That's really punky. I like that. I like that." So 9 o'clock, we have a roadie, as you probably know, and the guy Terry, I think it was, he came and took our gear down the road and to Air Studios. I worked all day with Andy Williams.
Great.
Right now, as you probably know, I suddenly got, the wardrobe out, which, we call the semi-acoustic, which is, beautiful. I had this thing we sold Gibson for years, and I never used it. And then suddenly the day before, "Can you do this?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, okay." And I came out and playing along. He said, "Oh, that sounds nice." And Andy likes to do everything live, because he's a very, very old school.
Yeah.
He started way before there was editing.
Yeah.
And first thing up was Days of Wine and Roses, and I played a couple of chords, big, the big chords,
Yeah.
and I realized that no one else was playing, and everyone looked around, and it was me for 8 bars, and it was Days of Wine and Roses. Some of the original guitar parts are kind of, they're all playing. I'm going, oh, I've got to be that, which is difficult. Anyway, I got the thing. We did about 4 takes, and they liked it, and then I took the pad. There was on the first break. I took all the music. At Air Studios, there was a loo upstairs, big
Right.
row of loos, because it used to be a shop. So there was about 20 kind of, stables of horses ready to bolt,
Oh
And I
yeah.
just went up there. I took this music, and I sat down in the loo, and I looked at everyone as much as I could, just to make sure I was never going to get caught out, because you never know with these things.
You never know.
Anyway, so we did that. So it finished at 5, went a little bit over. I met up with Mo Foster. We had kind of an early dinner because it was Mo's curry, and then we went to Ronnie's and did the Gil Evans Orchestra,
Wow.
because we were in a Gil Evans Orchestra at the time, and we just done a European tour. So we did that. Ended at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then at 4 o'clock I went to see Greg Walsh, producer, and I was playing with Heaven 17 at the time on their albums. As in fact, I
Right.
did all their albums, and Greg produced it, and there was Tina Turner. So let's stay together. The old Al Green song,
Indeed. Indeed.
and we did, and he came in, and they had like one, because Heaven 17 were one of the first techno bands that had a Fairlight, which
Yeah.
was a bit, the Fairlight was a bit dodgy, but they were the first band I know to put loops, like record themselves on a multi-track and then put it in a Fairlight and make up the
Right.
song.
Right.
See, so they were kind of doing that, then in the 80s. And anyway, so I came in, and I was with my wife. Well, I wasn't married to her then. It's Sally, and
Yes, indeed.
she came to hear Ronnie's, and we went down, and I carried my pedals. There was an amp there, and I had my guitar on my back. It was like, it was kind of poetic, In the, it was all
Yeah.
like, it was
Yeah.
great. We had a great gig, so it felt really, really up. Went in, and he said, Greg said, yeah, just put this. This is a song. Put some fills on, play some rhythm. So I did a rhythm chat to Phil's track, and as I said, it was Let's Stay Together. And then he said to Tina, who was talking to Sally in the corner, because studio's a great leveler, unless you're really kind of big time and not really going to talk to anybody, you just come in and you're just a talented person that mixes with everybody else, right? Because it's a
Right.
group effort. You don't want all that other, malarkey going on where, you're too big time to talk to the band, because that won't get you anywhere. And it never has, if
Right.
historically. Anyway, she was having this great conversation. And I had to kind of break up, say she fancied putting the vocal on. So, I mean, she did it in the first take. I mean, the beginning of that song, for me, is, it's just amazing. She just sings so well. And it did one for safety, because, that was the way it is. But of course, I didn't bother because it was analog. Do you want for
Exactly.
safety if it's logic? No.
Exactly.
Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Much better now. But anyway,
Right.
because it was oxide, they had to burn a bit more to make sure, because she was going back to the States. So did it again. It was fantastic. Choose which one. You couldn't. I mean, they used most of the first take and a few ad libs from the second one in the end, and that
Right.
was it. I remember Frank Ricotti had just gone. He played congas, and so I played the overdub. The drums were computer based, but then again, they were kind of playing them in. So it wasn't really a drum machine. It was
Right. Right.
stuff in. So it was kind of interesting. It was, that was between the two worlds. A techno band, but all the stuff on the Fairlight was live and just
Right.
all back. So in a way, you could say, well, like having a sample of real things. They
Yes.
were doing that then,
Yes.
but
Yes,
in a
indeed.
kind of different way.
And it's now about 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning.
Well, about 4 or 5, we got in the car, and we were driving back home to South London. And the dawn was coming up, and I thought, whoa, that was a bit of a blast. And then the final punchline was, Sally said, he's 12 years older than me, so I mean, yeah, no, it's younger. She'll kill me if she heard that. Edit.
I'll cut it out. I'll cut it
She's
out.
no. She heard me. She heard me. Oh, I'm so. She's younger, much younger than me, 12 years younger. And she said to me, she said, that was a great session. Who was that? Because she didn't know, because there was that gap between, Tina's terrible time with Ike,
Sure. Yes. Yes, indeed.
and then she kind of went off the radar in a way. was working to get herself together. It was that new wave of Let's Stay Together and What's Love Got to Do with It
Right,
and all
right,
that
indeed. Yeah, sure.
was, her big hits, which
That's
actually
right.
came out of the UK.
Yeah,
So that's how that was. And,
yeah.
so I was on a first sort of comeback hit, which is just, you don't know at the time. It's
Right.
like
I
people
remember.
saying, well, right. I mean, it's like people saying, with John Barry, and you played the James Bond theme on those films, and
Yeah,
it's fantastic. And I said, yeah, actually it is. I said, what did you feel at the time? I said, well, to be honest, I was looking at the music and wanted to make, a great job of it, but I didn't realize it would become,
sure.
a kind of sect. It was like it became, it's become so legendary now.
Right, right.
But
Well,
at the time, you don't think of anything.
the old cliche about life happening while you're doing something else, and
Yeah,
I
sure.
think that's been true. I mean, that's experience that we share because we've
Yeah.
both lived a long time and we've both done a lot of different things.
Except you're like younger than me.
I'm a little younger than you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
It's got to be the lighting, though. I mean, I worked it
yeah,
out. It's got to
I
be the
think
light.
I'm 4 years younger than you. Uh,
Hey, wow.
I actually, it's embarrassing to say this because we've done sessions together, not too,
Yeah,
but we've done a few sessions together, and
yeah.
but I think this is the longest that we've ever had to talk to each other.
Oh,
So I'm
well, isn't
very,
that true of sessions? I mean, you kind
yeah,
of say hi and you talk a bit,
yeah.
and it's
Hi,
never.
here's the music, and you look at it and you say, "Oh, okay, all right,
Yeah.
here we go." But this has been so great for me, and I'm very very grateful that we've been able to work this out, and I'm still going to hold you to doing something live with Mo, and maybe even with Ian Palmer. You can get together. We can record something for the show. That would be great.
Well, that would be great. Yeah. I kind of wrote a PhD, right, like you did. You've got a doctorate,
Yes, yes,
and I wrote this thing, and some people read it. They realized, and I realized from because of all the reading you have to do,
of course.
is that so few people actually write about how do you do this, and the actual books on what's cognitive, okay, what's creative in a group,
Hmm.
is there's so much social, right,
Yes,
life going on, and now there's such a lack of social life. I don't mean just because of the epidemic, but I mean the way we record is very secular now, and
yes,
and that causes a lot of people not to have the kind of feeling of playing together,
yes, indeed.
which you can play on your own and play as a group if you knew what it was like to play as a group.
Yes,
You can play and you can imagine yourself in there
yes,
and use techniques, but you've only learned those as playing as a group.
right,
And
right.
that's something I wanted to say, because that I'm sure a lot of people can play and play together, but actually going into the actual etiquette, the language of playing together,
Right.
is very difficult if you haven't ever done it.
Gary Burton once explained it that, playing solo is like giving a speech,
Mm.
playing duo is like having a conversation, and
Yeah,
playing with a group is like having a meeting. And two minds can be better than one, and six minds can be better than one, and one mind can be. It just depends. But
it depends. Yeah.
every time we play together, we are having a magical experience because there's a bunch
Mm.
of human beings who are only on the planet for a very short time,
Yeah.
having something that they can do together towards the same end. Are you still quarantined at home, doing your best not to fall asleep in the lonely, mind numbing silence of it all? Fear not. Help is at hand from me, Richard Niles. Listen to my podcast, Radio Richard, and you'll hear intriguing interviews and heart palpitating performances from master musicians like Maria Schneider, Trevor Horn, Hamish Stewart from the Average White Band, and the Free Play Duo. Shake your body, baby, do that conga. No, you can't control yourself. Believe me, you'll be glad you're alone with no one to distract you from all this amazing stuff. Don't miss a moment of the fun. Subscribe to Radio Richard. That's what I'm talking about.